once again, I am less than enthused at Black Christians and their behavior towards Charlie Kirk. I've had to follow so many people that I know from my past on Instagram because of the stories that they've put up, sending their condolences to this racist man who has spread disgusting, hateful rhetorics throughout his 31 hard-looking years. The fact you put religion before your own identity as a minority, even when I'm seeing Black women saying RIP to this man. I don't care if that makes me a better person. Oh, you can't wish death on some... He said I can't. The world is going to crap. People have no empathy. I cry all the time at people's pain. What I'm not going to do is say that I'm sad for a man who spread real hate that has real consequences. I'm not gonna... You guys don't stand for anything. And Black Christians, I am just disgusted. And I'm not surprised. A lot of you align with the beliefs. So as long as a person is Christian, they can say racist things, they can say transphobic things, they can say homophobic things, they can say anti-immigration things, anti-Islam, they can say whatever they want. But because they said that they say the Lord Jesus is Lord, you lot are saying he was a man of God.
The hypocrisy of eulogizing and idolizing Charlie Kirk as a political martyr and political hero is staggering. The depth of gaslighting, untruths, the shameful opportunistic politicization of his assassination is a clear attempt to rewrite his history. Now, we know exactly who Charlie Kirk was, and there's no way on God's earth we're going to let you tell us what he was not. Charlie Kirk's legacy is a legacy of hate. He was a racist, white nationalist, white supremacist, anti-Muslim, Islamophobic, transphobic, Zionist bigot. And whatever my view of him is, doesn't change the fact that I find his assassination absolutely wrong. Multiple truths can coexist. First off, these hypocrites, his supporters, are manufacturing a crisis of war and using him as their symbol to go fight. Fight what exactly? Let me just say with my full chest that I am glad that it's not a Black or immigrant that killed Charlie Kirk. Because it is a white person that killed him. You know that, right? If it had been a Black or immigrant, that information would have leaked out a long time ago. And this whole apparatus of hate would have been targeted against the people who Charlie Kirk has spent his entire existence targeting. Let not the irony be lost on you that the same Charlie Kirk that pathologized Black people as criminals and went on and on about Black on Black crime is now the face and symbol of white on white crime, which we all know is far worse than Black on Black crime. These same hypocrites tell us there is no place for political violence. I agree. But Charlie Kirk was politically violent. His language was politically violent. He supported gun violence and opposed gun control. The same person who said it is right for there to be a cost of gun deaths every year so that we can have the right to arms has now become the cost of gun violence he wanted other people to pay the price for. No political violence, you say, when Charlie Kirk endorsed and manufactured consent for Israel's genocide and political violence, crimes against humanity, against Palestinians every single day. These God-forsaken freedom of speech hypocrites are now hunting down people who are exercising their freedom of speech to either celebrate or quite frankly say they don't give a rat's ass that Charlie Kirk is dead. And these hypocrites are like, how dare you? You must lose your job and you must be punished. And I'm like, These hypocrites must be mad to demand that people extend humanity to Charlie Kirk, who never extended an ounce of humanity to people he targeted. So it is freedom of speech when Charlie Kirk said Black people were better off during slavery, that Black women lack processing skills, are only good at taking white people's slots. When he compared gay to drug addiction, called trans abomination, spewed anti-Muslim and Islamophobic hate, pushed white supremacist agenda against Black and brown people, pushed white nationalist agenda against immigrants.
Hello and what's up, good people? What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing great from wherever you're watching this video from today, and welcome back to the channel. Now, while America is still boiling over the fatal shooting and the consequential death of Charlie Kirk, a lot has come out. You know, when a man passes on, what is left is his deeds and his legacy. And in this particular video, we want to really just dive into how this is one particular event that has really exposed the dirty linen of America as a nation or even as a people. And this event, this shooting and the death of Charlie Kirk has not really started what we are seeing from Americans, but it has really, really exposed the deep division in the country, politically, culturally, and of course, racially. And I have actually just been sampling what Americans have saying. A majority of them have condemned this particular event. But if you read in between the lines, there's a lot more that we have been exposed to, or this has exposed to in the current day America, that you particularly are wondering, is this what Americans want of their country? I mean, it's sick. The political situation in America currently is wanting, and I was just observing what Black Americans especially had to say about this particular event. And there's a lot I have particularly learned that I'd love to share. Maybe you would agree or, learn along with me. So let me share a few of the reactions from Black people from the videos I compiled. And let's observe what they were saying and let's try to read in between the lines. So let's watch these videos. And at the end, we're going to try and analyze what is essentially coming out from such reactions.
Charlie Kirk's death has led me to an uncomfortable conversation that I want to facilitate. To my white brothers and sisters, how would you hope your minority friends respond to the celebration of Charlie Kirk's life when he has very publicly said things like this?
I live like a capitalist every single day, Shank. I live as a capitalist. Because of DEI, it begs the question, when you see a black pilot, you wonder, you say, I hope they are qualified. If I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman, I wonder, is she there because of her excellence? And Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously.
Refer to Asian individuals by the C word, a word too violent for me to even utter. Refer to Michelle Obama and Ketanji Brown Jackson of the Supreme Court, both Harvard graduates, as not having the brain processing power to be taken seriously. Suggested that if seeing a black pilot, would assume they were a DEI hire. To my white brothers and sisters, I'm genuinely asking, how would you like your minority friends to respond to the celebration of his life? Not to his death, but to the celebration of his life.
Ironically, the last thing that Charlie Kirk said before somebody had made an attempt on his life was talking about gang violence. I don't even know why he's talking about gang violence in Utah. Okay, he was at Utah. He was in Utah. And you have to really watch the things that you say. Because the thing is that the person who pew-pewed him wasn't a gang member. It wasn't an ethnic black American. It was somebody who was in his same racial group. Leave us alone. Leave us alone. You know what you did to our community. You know what you continue to do to our community. But if you want to sit up here like Charlie Kirk and say all types of things that are not true, or twisting narratives and statistics to make yourselves feel better about you as a community, you're going to get shown certain things. And unfortunately, this was shown in such a violent way. This didn't happen. No, this wasn't a person of color. This wasn't a black American who's different from a person of color. This was somebody like him. That's who did the violence. Look in the mirror and work on your own violence and leave us alone.
I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that does a lot of damage, but
I'm supposed to have empathy for a motherfucker that doesn't believe in it. I'm supposed to have empathy for a person that demonized my people, a person who watched a black man get his neck kneeled down for 9 minutes. He had a daughter. But do you know what that man said about that man after he was deceased? And I'm supposed to have some empathy? You're telling me that my morals are compromised because I don't have empathy for a man who doesn't view me as an equal human being to him? A man that does not have sympathy empathy for children being mowed down in schools, a man that does not have any sympathy for the women that are losing their reproductive health care and are set to lose more of their reproductive health care. This man literally said that he would force his daughter to have her rapist child, and I'm supposed to have some empathy that this man got taken out while spewing some more hateful rhetoric. Seriously, you can be against gun violence, right? You can acknowledge that no human being deserves to have their life taken away. Nobody does. But at the same time, stop telling people who are affected by the rhetoric that these people spew and individuals, because now that a lot of people who are saying that you should have some empathy, now there's finally somebody that looks like them that has been a victim of this. I've been having to watch my people get killed on camera as long as I can remember. Stop telling us to have empathy for a person that does not have empathy for us. That's not how that works. That's not how that works.
Nah, don't forget now. Charlie went and told y'all. This is an unfortunate sacrifice. Charlie Kirk went and told you that it was an unfortunate sacrifice that would need to be made to protect the Second Amendment. Things like this would have to happen. A citizen getting popped in broad daylight would have to happen. As unfortunate as it is, it was an unfortunate sacrifice that must be made to uphold the Second Amendment. Charlie Kirk fought for that. He worked hard for this. He worked real hard. He advocated for a fascistic regime, preached nonsensical race junk science that has been debunked for over 100 years. He hated the LGBTQIA community. An active TERF who didn't want women to have body autonomy and reproductive rights. He was a known Islamophobe, a white Christian nationalist, a man who he himself went on record on his little TV show and said he hated empathy. He thought it caused a lot of problems. Mr. Kirk worked real hard for this, and he knocked on hate's door all of his professional life. And the funny thing is, if you knock on hate's door long enough, hate will finally answer.
I'm sorry to say, but we just received word that Charlie Kirk has died. I think I'm still coming to grips.
Lock in, fuck niggas. We need to talk about this. The first thing I want to say is that I do condemn the events that happened to Charlie Kirk, and I feel terrible for his family. He just recently had a baby. Now, before people say some things that are crazy and doesn't make any sense, I do want to say that I blame Utah for this. If we actually look at Utah's gun laws, it is terrible. In Utah, you don't need permits to carry a weapon. They have loose background checks. There is no mandate to ban weapons on college campus. Not to mention the thousands of signatures that was signed to not allow Charlie Kirk to have his event in Utah. And despite not listening to that, despite not having strict gun laws, y'all allow him to have an event outside a public event where he was open for this to happen. You mean to tell me there was no safety precautions for this event? This is a state that gets an 11 out of 100 for gun law strength. They are also above average when it comes to gun violence. And despite knowing all of this, we're still gonna sit here and say that we don't have a gun issue?
Now, I want to make this abundantly clear so that there's no room for confusion. It is perfectly fine not to feel sad for or empathize with somebody who would even spit on you if you were on fire. Now, choosing not to mourn, cry, or feel bad for somebody does not automatically mean that you're celebrating their death. Like, there is a huge difference between celebrating and indifference. Now, I'm not about to have a party, buy balloons, and set off fireworks because Charlie Kirk got shot, because that's just not who I am. But at the same time, I'm not going to feel bad about it, and that's valid. And refusing to extend sympathy to somebody who spends his entire life tearing down the dignity of others is not cruelty, it's honesty. And I don't feel like anybody who has that opinion should feel attacked or shamed. Now, it is possible to acknowledge a death without pretending that that person suddenly becomes worthy of the compassion they refuse to give others. And you know, with me being a black woman in America, he said that the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. And he was also one of the loudest voices that spoke out against reproductive rights. So why would I pretend to mourn somebody who actively sought out to take away my dignity, my humanity, and my rights? So no, I'm not celebrating his death, and I don't think anybody else should, but at the same time, I don't think anybody else should feel forced to feel sad about it either.
Well, Charlie Kirk was just shot in the neck, and a lot of y'all are saying you don't condone violence. This is the same person that is spewing and upholding violent rhetoric against us. Maybe you're not seeing what's going on in Nepal right now, or what just happened to Jakarta, because no one has ever gotten their liberation through peaceful means. Violence has always been the way to liberation, and you don't condone violence against a racist white supremacist that's condoning violence against us? So it's okay for him to do it, but not us. Are we really feeling mercy for Charlie Kirk, the same person that cheered on this type of violence against Palestinians and also said a couple deaths here and there as long as we can have the Second Amendment are okay? Additionally, for anyone being mad about political violence against one person, while there's millions of indigenous people being unalived under the guise of democracy, this type of pacifism is what allows for it to continue. Giving, we've been so far removed and oppressed that we don't know what real revolution and liberation looks like, so when we see it, we actually stand up for the colonizer. Oh, and by the way, Netanyahu just came out and said that he's praying for Charlie Kirk. So pick a side. You either stand with the oppressors or you stand with the oppressed. You don't get to do both.
Boy, y'all got the nerve to really be sitting here wanting somebody to feel bad for Charlie Kirk. I say free Palestine. Y'all want to tell me to save that for tomorrow? Like it ain't hundreds of people dying last week, yesterday, today, and going to die tomorrow. So basically you putting Charlie Kirk's life over all of them people. Man, fuck y'all. For real, no, hell no. His last words, he blaming gang violence for shit and got shot by a white man. He had no condolences for all the people dying from innocent gun violence. He don't care about what happens in school shootings. He don't care about what happened in Palestine. He never gave a fuck. Watch it out, man. Nah, all that little fake virtue signaling, be the bigger person shit is why we're here today. All them gotta go.
Charlie Kirk died in America for expressing his freedom of speech. What the fuck is going on? After seeing that video, it wasn't much hope, but damn! Is this what we're doing in 2025? Just killing people? That girl just got killed on that subway, stabbed in the neck. What's wrong with y'all niggas killing niggas in the neck? I'm dead ass sitting here about to tear the fuck up, bro. I got a daughter. Imagine if wasn't his family at the rally? They saw his parent, you gotta excuse me, gang. They saw their parent die. I wanted to watch Charlie Kirk when he came here to A&M, and I simply just didn't have the time. That man by himself started so much of a movement. He's inspired so many people, myself included, to speak about politics. And he got killed for it. You can't tell me there's any other reason. It's not like people that agreed with him killed him. People are talking about gun rights and gun laws. The gun didn't kill Charlie. The person killed Charlie. Take that person and throw him under the damn jail. To Charlie's family, I'm still sending multiple prayers. I am so sorry something so tragic happened to y'all. Seeing that video genuinely is upsetting my stomach. Like, what the fuck, bro?
Nah, don't forget now. Charlie went and told y'all. This is an unfortunate sacrifice. Charlie Kirk went and told you that it was an unfortunate sacrifice that would need to be made to protect the Second Amendment. Things like this would have to happen. A citizen getting popped in broad daylight would have to happen. As unfortunate as it is, it was an unfortunate sacrifice that must be made to uphold the Second Amendment. Charlie Kirk fought for that. He worked hard for this. He worked real hard. He advocated for a fascistic regime, preached nonsensical race junk science that has been debunked for over 100 years. He hated the LGBTQIA community. An active TERF who didn't want women to have body autonomy and reproductive rights. He was a known Islamophobe, a white Christian nationalist, a man who he himself went on record on his little TV show and said he hated empathy. He thought it caused a lot of problems. Mr. Kirk worked real hard for this, and he knocked on hate's door all of his professional life. And the funny thing is, if you knock on hate's door long enough, hate will finally answer. And it answered him.
I don't feel bad that Charlie Kirk died. I feel bad that his life was taken. Do you agree or disagree? Somebody just commented that on my last video, and it really reminded me of a comment I saw in a post on Twitter. This is the same post where I learned that Charlie Kirk died from his gun wound and that the injuries were fatal. This commenter said, Charlie Kirk died for exactly what he believed in. I had to sit back and think about that because it is true. Charlie Kirk advocated for the gun laws that ultimately led to his demise. And I think this leads into a larger conversation about being very cognizant and empathetic when you are forming your political and social opinions. Because seeing that Newsweek article with the headline, Charlie Kirk says gun deaths are unfortunately worth it to keep the Second Amendment, but then seeing him die by a gun death in an open carry state is him being forcibly placed into somebody else's shoes, and they eventually became his own. In any scenario where he's talking about gun deaths, gun violence, the Second Amendment, it is a very clear lack of empathy. And pause. Didn't he say that empathy was a weakness? I'm pretty sure he said empathy was a weakness. So I feel like we can see this same parallel in situations where we're talking about immigration, where we're talking about racism, where we're talking about police brutality, where we can very confidently speak on issues with the person being affected by that issue as an other until we are forcibly put into their shoes and then we don't like it. And hopefully nobody has to be put into the other person's shoes, because none of those situations are good, positive, or desirable. But this is just a reminder to mind what you say, to mind what you think, and to shape your perspective around somebody else's experience other than just your own. Because ultimately, it will make a difference for not just you, but the people around you, your community, and the world at large. Again, thoughts and prayers to Charlie Kirk's family. This is a very unfortunate situation, very tragic, shouldn't have happened. I condemn the violence, but this is something important to talk about. I just made an entire video about this, and TikTok is very clearly blocking it, but I don't care because I want you to answer this question. It's important. When it comes to controversial public figures or people who you think are morally bankrupt in your political opinion, do you think that when a tragedy happens to them, it's important to be sympathetic and wish them well and hope they get better? Or do you think it's okay to carry on your current opinions, state the way you feel about them, say that they wouldn't be sympathetic to this issue if they were on the other side, and just carry on as usual? Because my entire feed for the past 30 minutes has been about Charlie Kirk getting shot, and then I went on Twitter and I saw the video of Charlie Kirk getting shot. And yes, it is a very tragic situation, but what I also want to draw attention to is the way that people are responding in the comment sections of all the videos posting about Charlie Kirk getting shot. The population in the comments is pretty much split. One half is saying, hey, we hope Charlie gets better. Regardless of what he said or done, he doesn't deserve to be shot and killed like that. Other side is saying, no. Charlie was very cavalier and dismissive towards anything that had to do with school shootings or that had to do with shootings in general, and said that sacrifices would have to be made if we want to keep our Second Amendment, and that casualties would be a result of that. And a lot of those comments are not sympathetic in any way, shape, or form. And this is the same mentality we see with people who are waiting for our 47th president to pass away and are saying things like, I'm waiting for the day I get that news headline and that notification. So my question to you is, do you think it's okay to state how you would feel regardless, and that the tragedy doesn't really change what that person has said or done in the past, especially in an arguably ironic situation like this where Charlie Kirk is an advocate for guns and he may lose his life to a gun? Or do you think that it's more important to be sympathetic and just view them on a human level, regardless of what their actions were outside of that? And I also want to say that I am not wishing Charlie harm or any type of pain. I hope that he recovers. I saw the video. If you've seen the video, you know what I mean. I just hope that he gets better, because nobody deserves to get shot like that.
Are y'all showing empathy to Charlie Kirk? I just want to know, are y'all showing empathy? Because that is somebody's daddy, that's somebody's son, that's somebody's uncle, that's somebody's brother. But he kind of went out the same way that, he advocated for. He said people had to go so the Second Amendment right would be, be good, So then he also said empathy is what's killing the world basically today, is having empathy. So I'm just, do you guys have empathy? Because it seems like he went out the same way he said it was okay for other people to go out. And, that's why you got to be careful about what you say when you say how you say it. Now, I'm going to say I don't, I feel sorry for his wife and his kids. His wrong does not reflect on their wrong. But to go in front of a crowd of people is crazy. That's crazy, to go in front of everybody. Sorry, it's all over the internet. That is a crazy way, because I think about his kids. That's a moment that his kids, like, they're gonna get to. I hate it, but they're gonna be able to see exactly how their daddy went out. But what does that mean? Is that gonna start? Is that gonna spiral up something else? I mean, like, you just never know. Is that gonna change? Pew violence? We don't know.
If you are one of these people out here celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, you are a sick individual. I hated Charlie Kirk. I did not agree with what he stood for. But in no world would I have wished death upon him, bro. His wife and daughters were present. They saw him die right in front of their eyes. That is not something anyone should have to go through. Now, I will say, it is kind of ironic that he advocated for guns and thought everyone should have a gun. And then what does he die to?
A gun. I mean,
I don't really have much of an opinion on that. Y'all can tell me what you think about that. But it's definitely ironic, I must say. Listen, I definitely get people's hatred for him. I understand where you come from and why you dislike him. But even his main op, Dean Withers, was crying for him for his death. That should say a lot. Even Dean showed remorse for his family and him, saying that he did not deserve to die for politics. Like, nobody deserves to be killed for politics. He did not actually do anything wrong. He just believed in crazy shit. I must say, it was crazy. But getting shot for it is something different, bro. This is not Adolf Hitler we're talking about. We're talking about a man with a wife and kids who was just shot on a campus with multiple students watching.
Damn. If you can't go to Utah with your racism, where can you go? They talking about some critical condition, bitch. Did we see the same video? That man is in hell playing spades with Satan and Mustache Man right now. At first, I was having a little bit of an internal battle with myself because I was like, damn. While I cannot stand his funny face looking ass, he does have a daughter who's gonna have to grow up without him now. But then I quickly thought about all of the kids who got up for school one morning, got dressed, ate breakfast, said goodbye to their parents before stepping onto the school bus or getting dropped off to school. And that was the last time they were ever seen alive. All because some sicko got to walk into that school with an AR-15 and make his bad day or his bad life their problem. Now today, a man who was so outspoken on protecting the Second Amendment right and believed that it was normal for people to walk around with AR-15s and everyone should have the right to do it, got necked. In Utah of all places. I don't know. Seems like a necessary evil to me.
So we do got an update on Charlie Kirk, and unfortunately he did not make it. Charlie Kirk has passed away. Like I said before, love or hate the guy. He probably said some things that rub people the wrong way, but words is words. He shouldn't have been unalive like that. Then you gotta go into what is really going on. I seen the video. They were talking about, you know, the big T words and shit like that. And then all of a sudden, pow! The video is highly graphic. I cannot show it. But just seeing it, you knew that he was not gonna make it. And this is what I really want to get into, y'all. So the person I showed on my last video on this situation, he was not the shooter. So why did they grab him up, handcuff his legs and his hand, pull him to the vehicle, just to come to find out that he wasn't the shooter? Shit don't make sense. I am hearing he got hit with a high-powered rifle. And y'all, this is weird. Somebody let me know if this is true. This allegedly was a tweet by him in 2014. Did I just get shot by an AR-15? Feels like it. Like I said, I don't know if it's true. Somebody let me know in the comments. So you gotta ask the question, was Charlie targeted because what he represented, what he talked about, or was this orchestrated randomly? This also make you think, if you're a political figure or someone that just carries a lot of weight, that talks about a lot of shit, and you're in public a lot, you need to be careful. I say that to say this. Kamala Harris is on a book tour. Donald Trump took away her Secret Service rights. So if I was her, I would be extra careful because shit like this is happening and nobody know why.
First, I want to send my condolences to the family of Charlie Kirk. But I'm not just really crying over what happened to him, even though that shit was really, really sad. I like Charlie Kirk. I didn't agree with everything that he did or said, but he never did anything but speak. He didn't hurt anybody. He didn't do anything that would have caused him to deserve that. I'm crying because I don't recognize this country anymore. I don't recognize the people. The last 4 years has really did a number on the citizens of this country. We have let so many people in, we don't even know who is who. Somebody who used to be a Democrat And I'm not saying all Democrats is like this, but y'all are some of the most evil people I have ever seen in my life. For you all to automatically get on here and laugh. There are literally people that you guys stand with who have done horrible things behind the scenes. Horrible things. And they haven't even suffered a day of the consequences. Haven't suffered the consequences yet. People who could go out and express themselves and be free to speak and say what a lot of us are thinking and just stand up for something other than the narrative that's being pushed. They're the ones that end up losing their lives. He didn't deserve that. And I heard that they didn't, I guess the guy who they said they arrested was not the person who pulled the trigger. So that means that the person is still out there. This is what we mean when we say guns don't kill people. Stupid motherfuckers with guns kill people.
Okay, now what do we learn? Basically, Americans have come out to condemn this shooting and the violence, this kind of violence on any kind of person. However, there's a lot more that is in between the lines from this. And one of the things that we can talk about is America is deeply politically polarized. It is deeply polarized. And in fact, not just politically, but even morally. So this situation underscores that America isn't divided on policies, but also it's divided on value, on what is considered as truth, as decency, as patriotism, as freedom, and as justice. To some, Charlie Kirk represented freedom of speech, faith, and conservative values. But to some, he represented white grievance politics, racial gaslighting, and a rejection of America's multiracial democratic promise. And this isn't just left versus right. It is two fundamentally different visions of what America is and who it is for. Immediately the shooting had occurred, we had politicians, including the president, come out to point fingers at the lefties and saying they are fully responsible for what happened. However, the suspect had not even been known. Their whereabouts were still under a mystery. So if you really look at that, then if you observe that, you could say America is very politically charged politically, because if you can already point out fingers at a suspect nobody knows their whereabouts, and you're already assigning them to a side politically, then that really talks a lot about the political situation in the country. Another one is that what we're really learning is that race is still the fault line in this country. So the fact that Charlie Kirk's death exposed more of a racial divide rather than uniting people in mourning shows that race remains the most powerful and unresolved tension in America. You can see that from the videos I just compiled were black people, reactions from black people. And there is a certain common line from what black people or black America is speaking on their reaction towards what this guy really believed in himself. And many black Americans are not willing to overlook racial harm, even in the death of an American or in the death of this guy. Conservatives often frame this as divisive, while critics say, no, the racism was the division. We are just not naming it, So this reflects how racial justice movements and backlash to them are now a core political dynamic, not, a side issue. And something else you might want to observe here is that grievance politics has become the engine of both sides. And what we're saying here is basically Charlie Kirk's rhetoric derived on grievance or grievances, telling mostly white conservatives that they were being erased, or they were facing racial erasure and cultural replacement, or they were being replaced or attacked. That grievance-based messaging built loyalty, and especially among these younger conservatives. And when you teach young people something, they grow to implement what they are being taught. But the reaction from Black Americans also revealed a deep and growing frustration that Black voices are still being dismissed, Black trauma is being minimized, and Black history is actually being rewritten or being erased totally, or being replaced by this rhetoric that Charlie Kirk was actually, forwarding. So the result is a political climate driven less by hope or compromise, but more by identity, resentment, and culture wars or cultural wars. And something else I might have noticed, you might agree with me, is that there is little room for nuance anymore. What we mean here is that the public reaction to KIRK'S death show that that there is almost no space for recognizing a person's influence and calling out their harm, or having cross-ideological conversations without being as a sellout or a bigot, for example. So the US is more becoming a place where you're either a patriot or a traitor, a victim, a villain, depending on who is viewing you or who is, probably telling the story at a particular time. And then America is also having a serious identity crisis, if you observe. So this all reveals a country still asking who gets to define what it means to become an American? Who is an American? Who is not an American? Whose history really matters in this point? If you listen to Black people and their grievances, they're actually basically asking whose history matters in this case. This is one man's death. It is sad. It is not acceptable. But what does it say about the history of certain people in America? And the question here is, can we actually share a future if we can't agree on the past, if we can't agree on history? So Charlie Kirk tried to answer those questions in ways that many people felt erased. It erased others. I mean, the pushback now, especially from Black America, says we are not going to let you define America without us or without Black people. In short, there is no America without us. So probably in short, or in my conclusion, America's political situation is a mirror of its deep lying identity struggle. The reaction to Charlie Kirk's death has exposed how unresolved racial wounds, incompatible values, and performative politics are not just present, but they are actually foundational to today's American lives or today's America. Also, what Americans might want to sober up over and come to a kind of an agreement is that they have to at some point eliminate politics or politicians from conversations of being American, because politicians are always biased. Politicians are always partisan, and they're always going to charge people in certain ways that you have to see that you're a conservative, you're a liberal, you're a lefty, you're a right, you're a Democrat, you're Republican. I mean, you have to sit down as Americans and call out what is not fair done to either a liberal, a conservative, a Republican, or a Democrat. And that it is time to not weaponize politics. It is time to also cool down the political temperature, the political polarization in a country, and realize that we can be political opponents, but it doesn't mean we are existential enemies. I don't know if Americans can get to a point in which they see themselves as just opponents. And on opponents, just like in a game, in a game. We have two teams, but we are not enemies. We are basically opponents in a game we all love. So we can be opponents in a country we all love, and we are not actually. We don't have to allow politics and politicians to sow that division amongst us. I had politicians come out to already point out to the lefties and blame them. They didn't even know the person that pulled the trigger. Nobody even knew the whereabouts. But you already had the guts to already blame a certain people over someone that nobody really knows who they are. So that is a way politicians are charging the climate in America, and America has to sober up if they can, and if they can't, then they have got to go back to the drawing board and ask themselves what works and what can't work, and what are the other solutions to American problems, not Republican problems, not Democrats problems, not liberals or conservatives problems, not right or left. What works for Americans and what can't work for Americans? Yeah, I don't know what you think about this particular video. These were just basically the reactions of Black Americans generally. And in the next video, we are also going to try and see what white America is basically saying, or most white people are saying towards the same, and we'll try to compare. Yeah, but if you have something to share with me, if you agree, disagree with what we have learned, what we have seen from this video, do share with me in the comment section below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you like what we do, then support this channel by really subscribing to the channel to become part of us. So we've come to the end of this particular video, and I hope you learned something. I hope you also enjoyed from what we've had to talk about in this video. So until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Peace out and be safe.